This mutation is called Getting Along, and it is being played on the Vermillion Problem. We have two mutators active. We have Sharing is Caring, and we have Polarity. So everybody knows how annoying Polarity is. I want to address some of the misconceptions about Sharing is Caring. There are a lot of people that believe that Sharing is Caring actually shares all the supply and all the total supply that two commanders have. So they are under the idea that if they pick two max supply commanders, say Dahaka and Artanis, who start off 200 supply, then you can have 400 supply at the end. That is not how Sharing is Caring works. Now, the reason why this misconception occurred is because Sharing is Caring only appeared in one mutation in the past, and it was the one on the Oblivion Express with the Turkey Hunt. And that Turkey Hunt actually allows you to go over 200 supply. The way Sharing is Caring works is that your consumed supply is shared. So this number over here, throughout the course of the mission, you will see is going to be the same for both the commanders all the time. So the supply that you have and your ally has as well, the supply that you are consuming, so to speak, with your constructed units, are going to be shared between the two players. The supply cap that you have is actually limited to the amount of supply cap that you would normally have if you were playing a regular game. In this case, if you are limited in terms of your overlord count, that is going to be the supply cap that you have available. Now, this might be, not too much of an issue, but you need to think about the commanders that you select. So, for example, say you're playing Artanis, who instantly starts at 200 supply, and your ally is playing, say, Nova, who starts at 100 supply, and that is her cap. Now, there can be a problem because Artanis can go over the 100 supply cap that Nova is allowed. And what can happen is you can be playing Artanis and you could build up to, say, 120 supply units, and that will instantly block Nova from building anything else until the supply goes below 100, because she will be seeing 120 out of 100 supply. So be careful when you are playing with Sharing is Caring. It does require a little bit of collaboration, which is kind of what the whole idea of this mutation is. Having two things that rely on a lot of communication between the two players, but it's just something to take note of when you are going through this mission. So let's have a look at the masteries over here. This is being played on the custom map, obviously, because you do not have access to this mutator if you are not playing on this, and you can see the Polarity over here is causing a few problems for some of these bunkers, but Kerrigan is already now in position to be able to clean up. But we have the Royal Guard support, we have the Royal Guard cost, and we have the starting mandate mastery, which means that we are focusing mostly on a Royal Guard centric army. And for Kerrigan, we have the Kerrigan energy regeneration. We have a 1911 split into the Vespene cost and the mobilization wave mastery, and we have the primary ability improvement. So there is some kind of optimization that's done here for Kerrigan. I think the 11 points into the mobilization wave mastery is, I think it's to be able to one-shot mutalisks in one immobilization wave. I think that is the cutoff that was used. And we have, obviously, the primary ability improvement as well. And that is basically focusing on a kind of Kerrigan-centric build. So this is what we have here for the mastery selections. You can see the Mengsk already and Kerrigan are just going to go and start clearing out the space. And you can see we have some flame troopers as well here, which is very useful. This drone has no idea what he wants to do. He's just spazzing out right now for Amon, and wants to just stay away from these units, but does end up getting picked off and get sliced in half. Part 1 and part 2 of the drone are there. And now, the next lava surge is here, but that crystal has not been picked up, which is somewhat unfortunate for these commanders, because that is a that is a freebie crystal over here. No pickup on that crystal, and it's somewhat unfortunate that it's going to be a little bit too late. And I think there is just, so we have this Imperial Witness now that's going to be moved towards the space here. These players are going to try and ramp up as quickly as possible. That is very unfortunate. There's a miss off here. And now we have a bunch of Overlords that are going to drop here. There are unfortunately no units inside these bunkers, so these bunkers do not end up fighting back. And I think for the most part, everything is going to end up aggroing Kerrigan, and whatever is left with the Polarity is going to be attacking Mengsk, but that ends up getting picked off as well. And you can see the effectiveness of these Flame Troopers. They are really, really good. They gain, I think, extra armor as well when you convert them up. I think they do. Yeah, so they get the extra 1 armor, but they also gain the extra HP. They're at 145 HP. So they're very good units for tanking when you are up against a swarmy Zerg kind of composition. What kind of composition? Yeah, so we have a swarmy Zerg composition here, explosive threats. So lots of Banelings, lots of Scourge, but these units are actually really good for soaking up a lot of the damage on the front line. We see here Kerrigan is moving around and just gonna go and start clearing out these areas here without too many issues. Unfortunately, one of those crystals were missed, which was a freebie. I think it was a little bit of a miscalculation on the player's part, but remember the Polarity can get a little bit aggravating because your army basically has to sit down and do nothing. Very nice bile onto that army does end up catching out Kerrigan, I think. The rest of these units, I think one of these guys also does end up get picked off. And now it's just a matter of time while Kerrigan starts to clear out some of these units on here. Kerrigan has already gotten the chain reaction upgrade and the heroic fortitude that makes Kerrigan reasonably tanky. And now we are back in the green right now, and there are 2 more crystals that are on the way for collection from 2 of Kerrigan's drones. And over here we have Mengsk already starting to capture his expansion, but you can see here the supply, we are at the same point over here. Kerrigan has enough overlords and Mengsk has enough supplied bunkers to be able to continue production, but they have to be really careful with how they choose to engage. They're using a very, very small force over here, just making sure that they have enough time for workers and whatnot. And I think Kerrigan will be one basing on this mission, which is not a bad idea considering they are going for a solo Kerrigan build. This means that there are 21 plus another 6 workers. There are 27 units of supply that are not being constructed for Kerrigan, and therefore unlocking a lot of valuable supply for the commanders to actually use combat units, or for Mengsk to be able to use the rest of his guard. As you can see here, the Viper has taken a keen interest into this Imperial Witness. That Viper will end up getting picked off as well, and now the Zerg will end up suiciding themselves into the lava because the AI is 500 IQ right now, so that aberration doesn't get picked off, and the Zerg ends up suiciding into the lava and end up burning a horrible, painful, toasty death. Kerrigan now just chilling in the base, just waiting for everything to come up, and we have a lot of nice networks that are coming up for Kerrigan as well with an Ultraless Cavern, so Kerrigan will be transitioning up, getting some more tanky units. I think this is to be able to just tank for the front line of Mengsk's army, so I think the arrangement they're going to use is the Kerrigan's Ultralisks will be on the front line, while Mengsk's army will be on the back behind those Ultralisks, and they will basically be dealing the damage output there for Kerrigan while Kerrigan just moves in. I think Kerrigan has her immobilization wave ready as well, so she's probably going to jump in, Assimilation Aura, and immobilization wave, and you can just see everything pretty much gets completely one-shot. Everything else is just Polarity now, and Mengsk is just going to go and try and target some of those units, and they will end up clearing out whatever is left there, I think, without too many issues. So that is 4 more crystals, I think, for the commanders. So I think this actually recuperates one of the crystals that were lost. The one thing to note about this map is if you do end up losing a crystal, the map usually tries and gives you 1 extra so you finish on schedule, assuming that you picked up all the crystals. You can see over here 4 crystals that actually spawn instead of 3. Usually there are only 3 crystals that spawn. But because the commanders had lost that crystal over here, 1 additional crystal had spawned, and that crystal does not seem to be picked up over here by either of these commanders, which is again an interesting. There we go, so one of these commanders now have noticed, and they will go and pick up these crystals over here. Small force of Hydralisks for Kerrigan, but again, they have to be really careful. They are already at using a combined supply of 155, and they have to be really, really careful. They did not really oversaturate their mineral lines. See here, there's a small oversaturation. The ideal saturation of this is about 19 out of 21 if you want to just be optimal, and I think pretty much the same idea for Kerrigan as well. So they have to be really careful with how they choose to utilize it. But now Mengsk is at 100 mandate. Is he going to use a nuke on here? There is no nuke for Mengsk, which is going to be a bit of a problem because that Hybrid Domineer is going to start casting a lot of abilities onto Kerrigan's Hydralisk and Kerrigan's Royal Guard, and that is pretty much all of Mengsk's conscripts dead. Now only his Royal Guard stands strong, and they end up killing off that Hybrid Domineer. But now there is another air attack and a bunch of Mutalisks over here with a disabling cloud onto these Vipers, from these Vipers onto these Hydralisks, and I think for the most part seems okay until they start to get aggroed by this Viper and these Mutalisks here. So Kerrigan uses the Omega Worm now to just get back into position, and remember that there is Polarity active on this map, which means that they will need to work together, and their armies will have to be together all the time, which also makes this a little bit tricky. A little bit more harassio onto these Kerrigan's Omega Worms, and now Kerrigan has unloaded here, and she'll start cleaning up the side. And now we have a little bit of a harass here from Amon onto Kerrigan's base, and there is also a little bit of a harass here from some of these Zerglings, which is causing a few problems. Now they are getting triple pronged attack, lots of pings going down the minimap, and that aberration does get picked off, so that main base is saved. But unfortunately, Mengsk's expansion has been completely ravaged by this attack wave, and now there is another attack wave that is coming up over here. Kerrigan, now, considering the scenario right now, Kerrigan's important crystal to pick up is this one. These ones are going to be safe from the lava surges, so it's not terrible, but this one needs to be picked up as quickly as possible, because once the lava surge comes up, this crystal will be lost. But now there is also an attack wave over here. Kerrigan needs to jump into position, and she does have an immobilization aura that she has an immobilization wave that is available. Personally, I would have used it there because she also has the ability efficiency upgrade, which allows her to spam her immobilization waves a lot more frequently. There's one last Mutalisk here that is harassing me a little bit, and over here there seems to be something burrowed, I think. Anyway, that Mutalisk does end up getting picked off. Those crystals now are being collected using the Omega Worms that Kerrigan has provided. So do note that you can actually use Omega Worms to move your workers across on this map. So if you're playing with Kerrigan, have your Kerrigan ally drop Omega Worms around, and you can actually load your workers into them and pretty much pick up the crystals instantly. You obviously have to transport them manually back to your base, but this does make it a little bit easier and gives you a lot more time to pick up the crystals, given the lava surges can sometimes interrupt your plans. Right now, I think both commanders have chosen to just start and recuperate their forces and just start to build up their army over here before they start to push through. Pick up the next crystal. I think they have to be a little bit careful. Amon is still mining off that base, which is kind of funny. Kerrigan is not even interested in taking that out, but she'll have to be really careful. She can get cornered by on this high ground. Yeah, that would have been a huge disaster over there, because there's going to be a Polarity, the hybrids over there, and now Kerrigan has used her Omega Worm to help her ally move into position, and they'll start clearing out this side. There is another assimilation aura and an immobilization wave. Unfortunately, some of those units are out of position, and they will not get caught by the assimilation aura on here, but that hybrid dominator does end up getting picked off, and now Kerrigan is just going to start cleaning up the rest of these enemy forces on this base over here. Molten Sal has spawned, so now is the commander's chance to go and try and take out the bonus objective if they want to. They will need to drop an Omega Worm onto the next lava surge. That should be okay for the most part. We have another attack wave now that has spawned, and I think this will go up this ramp over here, so we'll see what okay, it decided to go up the other ramp instead. Both these allies are now in position, and they are ready to address this attack wave. So Kerrigan jumps up in front, lots of Banelings attacking Kerrigan, but Kerrigan is fine. The mutating carapace that she has that keeps her alive as she cuts through some of the Zerglings over there with the extra HP, and now the rest of Kerrigan's army has come out of the Omega Worm, and now it's just going to end up cleaning up the rest of these enemy forces over here. So far, the units lost, we have 22 Hydralisks lost, and a total of 57 conscripts gone, and that's pretty much okay. I think those were, was that a ghost?
Our
It doesn't look
allies
like a
are
ghost.
being attacked.
Might be a ghost, but I'm not
forces
really
are
sure.
under attack.
Anyway, these commanders are going to start pushing through now. We have a Zerg call down that has been used, and the Zerg now are going to make their way towards this enemy base here, and Kerrigan will have to be a little bit careful. She has the assimilation aura, but she does not have a mobilization wave, and that is going to give Kerrigan a very, very high aggro rating when she pushes up this ramp. The assimilation aura will cause Kerrigan to take a lot more focused fire damage, especially from these hybrid dominators. Things can deal a lot of damage very, very quickly. And now we have a lava surge that will be coming up at some point, and there is still no pickup on any of these crystals over here. Is there going to be an unload? Is there going to be an unload, or are all three of these crystals going to be gone? I think all these crystals are going to be lost. No unload there from any of these workers. And there is an Amon drone moving over here, which is interesting. Is that guy going to get roasted, or is he just calculated that he's going to survive there? Yeah, these crystals are gone now. Unfortunately, 3 crystals lost there, and this was basically a wasted phase, but these commanders are clearing out and pushing through some of these areas here. You have to be really careful. One of the things that makes this mission so difficult is the Polarity Mutator. It is one of the most difficult mutators to deal with because it requires you and your ally to stay together, and that means that you cannot individually push. You can see here 5 crystals have spawned on this wave now. So this is the game basically trying to get these commanders back into back on schedule and picking up the rest of these crystals here. But again, there will be again a set of harass waves that will be spawned and they will try and defend these crystals over here. But now the commanders have to deal with another issue, and that is the attack wave that is coming up on this side. But again, these Omega Worms provide these commanders with so much mobility, so valuable. Lots of Banelings contacting into Kerrigan's army over here. These Banelings actually decide to not attack the rest of these things. And again, that is Mengsk's base completely ravaged. Ripped to all those workers. Press F to pay respects to all those laborers that ended up giving their lives to some of these, to all of these units over here. They actually got converted to conscripts before they got converted to troopers before they ended up dying. But that is still somewhat unfortunate. But now Mengsk is sitting at 100 mandate, and he's ready to use his Zerg Calldown or his nuke, depending on what he chooses. And I think that crystal has been picked up. There are 2 more crystals. I think this one is on the low ground, and this one might need to be picked up over here. And did Kerrigan ended up dying over there? Yeah, Kerrigan ended up dying to a bunch of Banelings that were spawned. That was somewhat unfortunate again. But again, I think the site has been cleaned up. And now 2 more crystals can be picked up. I think this crystal needs to also be focused down, because that crystal will also be lost to the lava surge. So we have 2 more crystals being picked up by Mengsk, and now we have to start clearing out this side. But there are a lot of Banelings, and these Ultralisks are actually going to soak up a lot of the Baneling damage, which is very useful. But now Mengsk is in huge problems and decides to retreat back. Well, unfortunately, one of those Marauders does end up getting caught out there and does end up running and retreating into the Omega Worm. There's another unload on this side. Now Kerrigan's army is in position to try and help. And I think there is a drone that is just waiting to try and pick up that crystal. But there is 1 more crystal. Okay, this crystal is also on the high ground. That's good. I thought actually it spawned on the low ground there. And that might have been a bit of a problem. We have an immobilization wave that gets dropped here. Stun some of these units, and now Mengsk can clean up whatever is left of these enemy forces. This Hybrid Dominator is going to cause a few problems. It was trying to Plasma Blast Kerrigan again. It does end up getting killed off. And so those are all those crystals that are being picked up right now. So overall, okay, I think commanders are 1 crystal behind based on where they should be, because I think that spawn usually has 3. It spawned 5 crystals at the time. So I think the next spawn might spawn 4 crystals, and that might be the end. There is a ping now on onto this area. They want to go and try and get to this next. They want to try and get this bonus objective. Is the guy going to make it before he gets roasted? Yes, he is going to make it, and it'll be an Omega Worm that will give the mobility that is required to get these commanders into position now. There is a huge unload, and now these commanders are going to try and deal with Molten Cell. And I think Molten Cell is belonging to Kerrigan, which is very unfortunate, because Kerrigan now has to deal with it manually. But again, she has an army of Hydralisks combined with Kerrigan, and they'll end up clearing up Molten Cell very, very quickly. That is Molten Cell gone. And now we have, yes, another set of 4 crystals. So if they pick up these 4 crystals, I think that should be pretty much the end of the mission. And now we have a lot of Zerglings that are coming up over here. And now there is an unload again on this side. And these Vipers are causing so many problems for these commanders, because the Blinding Clouds are just insanely good for the AI. And that is a problem, because it means the ground-based forces of Mengsk and Kerrigan cannot actually deal with some of the more nasty units on the back here, like these Swarm Hosts. So it's going to be a little bit of a harass here, but I think for the most part this attack wave will end up getting cleared out. There is 1 last Swarm Host here. Commanders are not interested. They just want to unload, and they want to start dealing with this next side. Kerrigan has her immobilization wave ready, so she will be able to stun the hybrids that are there. I think there are 2 hybrids maybe, and there are a bunch of other nasty units here, and Kerrigan is just waiting. And now she's getting ready to jump in. She doesn't really need her assimilation ore. There's tons of resources available. And she's going to jump in. And 1 immobilization wave wipes out pretty much all the units that are from her polarity. And now Mengsk just has to go and deal with these 2 hybrids. Unfortunately, these 2 hybrids do belong to him, so he's going to have a bit of an issue trying to deal with them. They're not very, very strong. His soldiers are relatively squishy. But I think there is just now a focus down onto these crystals. You just want to pick them up. And I think the rest of these units have been cleaned up for these commanders, and all is good now. They just have to make sure that these workers do not end up getting picked off by the attack wave that is coming up on this side. So there's 1 last crystal over here that has not been picked up yet, but I think if they're only focusing on these 3 crystals, I think that should be okay. Kerrigan does end up unloading here. That Swarm Host has picked off that Omega Worm, and Kerrigan just retreats back into the Omega Worm. And I think these workers are not going to make it. We're not going to make it. 2 workers have been roasted for the crystals. Very, very unfortunate there. And that guy is just waving the crystal around. He's examining the crystal, making sure its quality is of optimal levels. He's continuing to examine the crystal for any scratches. The crystal seems to be acceptable quality, and now the crystal will be sent into the environmental stabilizer. Kerrigan is already in position, uses her assimilation aura, and Mengsk decides to just drop the nuke. He is completely done, but those are all those crystals. Very nice finish there with a bunch of nukes, and that is GG.